Okay, I hope you can all see the screen. Okay. So as mentioned, today we'll be reviewing four main points with regard to residence permits, the creation of a special police department, citizenship, and general migration issues, which, to be fair, don't really impact directly golden visa applicants. Nevertheless, as it is one of the significant changes, then I just thought we could go over it. So we have, as you know, with regard to those of you already in possession of a residence permit, these have been extended until October 15, 2025. Okay, so those of you with existing permits, that is the current extension. And we have already started submitting the requests or submissions for renewal. The platform was already made available a few weeks ago, but only last week, after constant trial and error, have we been able to submit these applications. Okay. Now, as far as we understand it, because this is new, we will eventually receive a notification. So for the time being, we have just filed the request for the renewal. And then once that request has been validated by AIMA, Immigration Office, then eventually we expect that we will receive the notification for the appointment. Okay. Now, once the card has been paid and until the card is actually issued, the extension will be granted for 6 months. So there are two extensions, one until October 15, which is general one, and then the individual extensions once the process has been submitted, once the file has been submitted, then you'll pay your card fee, and with that proof of payment, the individual extension of 6 months is granted. Okay, so just to let you know, this is ongoing, and we will keep you updated once the notifications come through. So on June 30th, the decree law that granted these extensions was published, and we have two situations. So those residence permits, cards that had expired before June 30th, 2025. And then, so AIMA's special task force will be contacting us by email for the purpose of renewing credentials via an online platform. And then the fee will have to be paid within 10 business days. And then we will receive the appointment for biometric data collection, as mentioned earlier. For those residence permits expired after June 30th, 2025, there's also, as mentioned, that renewal portal. Any outstanding tax or Social Security phase contributions would have to be paid if it hasn't been done so already. And all the necessary documents, of course, will have to be uploaded, and these documents will be reviewed as per usual. Okay. Then, if there's need for submission of documents that in the meantime have been outdated or not, we shall be notified, and the scheduling for the biometrics appointment will take place. Okay, so two different situations. Okay, so for those cards that have already been expired, as mentioned, we have started that process. Okay, so for the other cards, we will be moving along the same lines in the next few weeks. One of the significant changes is the creation of a special unit for aliens and borders within the police force, and this will have the control and oversight of immigration and foreigners within Portuguese territory. Now, I would like also to highlight that there is an ongoing debate which will actually continue in September in Parliament with regard to a proposed amendment to the citizenship law. And this, again, is still at an early stage. It is not something which there is consensus about. And there are, of course, concerns voiced by different bodies and communities. So I'll just walk you through the main aspects that are object of the government's proposal, whether or not they will be passed as is remains to be seen, because again, there is really no consensus, and some of these aspects can be contentious in the future. So, with regard to naturalization, the government's proposal includes an increase in the number of years of residency. This would be from 5 to 7 in the case of those citizens hailing from Portuguese-speaking countries, and 10 years citizens of any other countries. And the computation of that period of residence would be as before the last 2024 amendment, April of 2024, as per the issuance of the first card, or from the
तिमी
issue
ल्यापटप खोल
of the
म
first card.
गुगलको पासवर्ड र ऊ पठाइदिन्छु ल
Please kindly refrain from activating your speakers or your microphone, sorry. Then, well, of course, there are no citizenship applications for individuals who have been sentenced to effective imprisonment. And finally, the proposal would also consider revoking the regime for Sephardic Jews, but that is beyond, of course, the scope of our interest right now. We all know, of course, that the knowledge of Portuguese language is a requirement, the purpose of this kind of application. The government would also like to introduce a new exam regarding rights and obligations of Portuguese citizens and political organization of the country. So, as you may know, of course, this is very common in other countries, like in the US. It's also the case in Spain. So Portugal, at least, is discussing the possibility of introducing such an exam. And finally, there will also be a solemn declaration of adherence to the fundamental principles of the democratic rule of law. And this would be similar to other countries, like France, for instance, where there's an actual contract signed between the French state and the applicant. In terms of ancestry, there is a clarification and extension that can go up now to the great grandfather. Okay, so there's one extra generation that we can consider for these purposes. So any applicant with relatives that might have been born in Portuguese India or in Macau or in other countries where there was a significant Portuguese presence can avail of or will be able to avail of this possibility. Now, for minors born in Portugal of foreign parents, the parents must be legal residents for 3 years before applying. So right now it is 1 year, so 1 year of legal residency. Child was born in Portugal, then the child can apply for Portuguese citizenship. So this period of legal residence will be increased from 1 to 3 years. The next point, well, it doesn't really affect you. This is regarding abrogation of naturalization for Portuguese citizens who might have lost their citizenship due to overseas residence during the 1975 revolution. So really of no consequence to us. And the government would also like to introduce a proposal whereby citizenship would be revoked, always by a court order, of course, and as an accessory sanction, if the citizen who has been naturalized for less than 10 years or has been holding Portuguese citizenship by virtue of naturalization for less than 10 years is sentenced to an effective imprisonment of at least 5 years. Okay, again, this is one of the very contentious matters and object of great debate. With regard to attribution, descendants of foreigners living in Portugal, parents must have had legal residence for at least 3 years, and in this case, citizenship it would only be attributed if the parents explicitly state that they wish for their child to become a Portuguese citizen. With regard to the Migration Act, I will be skipping through this quickly because it doesn't really affect any of you. The more significant change has to do with family reunification, but again, this will not apply to golden visa applicants. Again, this will not apply to golden visa applicants. Okay. Now, the idea behind this change is that the application for family reunification would only be possible once the main applicant has been a resident for 2 years. So again, not a very popular measure, but nevertheless, this one, the migration law, the bill has already been approved, and we are now waiting to see what response the president will take, whether he will actually ratify the law, will he veto it, or send it to the Constitutional Court for assessment. So he has yet to make that decision. One thing that is of interest regards the extension of the deadline for the processing. And AIMA will now have, instead of 3 months, 9 months. Not that they would, of course, respond in those 3 months, as we know fully well, but now they do have that coverage of 9 months. Job seeker visa, again, of really no consequence to any of you, but just to let you know that for people who would like to come to Portugal on the basis of securing a job when they come to Portugal and not before, the change implies that such a visa would be restricted only to highly qualified, highly skilled individuals. We don't know yet what kind of qualifications will be required. That will be clarified later on. CPLP visa, this regards only those members or those citizens of Portuguese-speaking countries. Okay, so again, that will not affect any of you. Now, application of law over
यो
time and
बायोमेट्रिक
this idea
मार्चमा
of
भएको
retroactivity.
भइसकेको छ र मेरो सबै फ्यामिली सहित बायोमेट्रिक भएको हुनाले टेन्टेटिभली कार्ड कहिले आउँछ म त्यो जान्न चाहन्छु।
Please ensure that your microphones are not active, please. Thank you. So the general rule, of course, as we know, is that law is not retroactive. Okay. The government, when these amendments were first discussed or proposed, wishes to make them retroactive to June 19th. Now, where have we heard this before? As you will certainly recall, back in February of 23, when the former government had come up with the significant amendment, including possibly the end of the whole Golden Visa program, this idea of a retroactive effect had also been toyed with, but had met, of course, with a very strong opposition of the legal community, since such a measure would be unconstitutional. Okay. So similarly, in our case now, 2025, the same principle would apply. So again, some very authoritative voices, such as one of the drafters of the Portuguese Constitution, have already expressed that such a measure is unconstitutional. So, as mentioned before, the president of the parliament, not the president of the republic, okay, president of the Portuguese parliament, or the speaker of the house, if you will, in UK terms, also voiced some reservations about the constitutionality of some of these measures. Okay, and these can be divided into possible violation of the principle of non-discrimination when it comes to when distinguishing between naturalized citizen and those holding Portuguese citizenship by origin. Number two, possible violation of the principle of prohibition of loss of civil, professional, political rights as a result of a criminal conviction. But however, this is of less importance. You all have impeccable records. And but more to the point, then number three, application of law over time when it comes to said retroactive application. Okay. So the president of the parliament concluded that at this early point of the process, the proposal must be further discussed and might be taking a different shape. Okay. So again, the citizenship law has yet to be finalized, and the discussions in Parliament will resume only in September. Okay. Now, apart from the Speaker of the House or the President of the Portuguese Parliament, the President of the Republic also raised concerns and might well be asking the Constitutional Court eventually, if and when the law is passed, citizenship law is passed, might send it again to the court for assessment. And as mentioned, Jorge Miranda, considered one of the fathers of the Portuguese Constitution, also explicitly pointed at some of the measures that would be violating the Constitution, including, of course, the retroactive effect of the application of the law. So, as mentioned, citizenship law can now, if and when passed, then it would be up to the president to take one of three decisions. One, enact the bill, ratify it. Two, veto it. It's a one-time veto that Parliament can override nonetheless. And three, request the Constitutional Court to assess it. Okay. So, of course, those of you that might already be close to or might have already completed your 5 years, then, of course, early submission is highly recommended. And here we will be monitoring very closely the evolution of the debates and, of course, ensure that every applicant's rights are protected and everyone's interests, of course, follow through. So we know that right now the situation is kind of standstill until September. So we have time to prepare if preparation is necessary. And then come September, the shape of the law will be greatly influenced by this very public debate that is ongoing. Okay. And we will be providing further updates as things progress. So right now, this is currently the situation, status of the matter. And to summarize, we have the immigration law and those changes we have seen. The bill was passed, but is still pending enactment by the president. Okay. Number one. And it has not been published yet. So it is not yet effective. Number two, citizenship law. It is still at an even earlier stage. Okay. Nothing formal has taken place. The bill is in Parliament. It is ready for discussion. Discussions will only resume in September, and we do foresee that the final wording of the bill should be at least quite different to the one that was initially submitted by the government to Parliament. Okay. So, as mentioned, we will be providing everyone with all the necessary information and updates according to your own personal situation.